So my name is Matt Orifici. I'm with Edu Tek Ltd. We're one of the co-hosts of the event. So if you're not familiar with our firm, we're a IT solutions provider that works with a number of schools throughout the metro area that provide services, and we're happy that you guys were able to attend. And so I'm going to jump right into it. A lot of what we're going to talk about is very straightforward and obvious, but our goal is to try to put it together so that it crystallizes really an efficient way to model IT in a school district. Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. So the biggest thing is just to really identify the goal of an IT department, which at its core is to maintain an infrastructure. An infrastructure, by infrastructure, we don't just mean cabling, but we mean everything that supports your technology initiatives in a school. And it means building a team, equipment, installations, everything, so that you can sustain both needs now, but also try to sustain a model that will go forward to support needs in the future. So it's pretty straightforward, but how do you accomplish that in an efficient manner? And our recommendation to folks is to view your IT department as a business within the school. You're a service provider. You need to view it as providing a service to the customers, or in this case, your students and your teachers, in order to help them with their needs. So what does that mean? And I know some of the text may be a little small here, but as a small business operating in your district, you need to make sure that you can scale with the needs of the district. So as customer needs change, you need to be able to be flexible, adapt to it, but at the same time, you need to be able to provide a product that works both now and into the future. When it comes to flexibility, you might liken it to a bakery. How often have you walked into a bakery and you don't see a nut-free section or a gluten-free section or a lactose-free section in a bakery? Well, it's because of the constantly changing needs of the customers. So when you view it from that standpoint, although you're not physically selling something and earning income on it in your district, you do have to view it from the standpoint of constantly looking at the ever-changing needs of the customers. So that's not always the easiest thing. So here's a 5-minute crash course on running a successful business. And our company's been around for over 20 years, so we consider that successful, surviving as being successful, we hope. But what does it mean? It means rule number one is the customer is always right, even when they're not. So for your IT department, and I laugh because one of our customers is in the room, but what it means is that you have to find a way to make it right for the needs of your customers. In your cases, if it's teachers and there's an initiative, you have to find a way that makes it right for them. So if they're asking for something, you have to do it. So how do you do that in this environment? 3 steps: efficiency, thinking long-term, and also knowing your customers. Okay? So what's your core product? It's, as we said before, our goal is to provide a stable IT infrastructure that allows us to deliver support services to a district, and in your case, to be able to sustain technology initiatives that they have throughout the district. So the first step is to determine what type of network or IT department are you trying to sell. So the best illustration I could come up with was 3 different model cars: a 1985 Yugo, a 2015 Ferrari LaFerrari, which is about as top-end as you get, and then a 2015 Honda Accord. So what does that have to do with technology? So the thought is, some folks try to sell, as an IT department, an 85 Yugo. And why would you ever want to do that? Well, you might want to do it because it's dirt cheap. On the other hand, just because it's dirt cheap doesn't mean it's efficient. As you may realize, if you don't invest in your technology and you try to milk something that's ancient, eventually it's going to cost you in the end. Now, what about at the other end of the spectrum, the supercar of supercars, the LaFerrari? Well, as awesome as that car is, and even if somebody handed it to us and said it's free, well, number one, you're going to need a certified Ferrari tech to maintain it. You could barely drive it in the streets of Westchester. And in reality, you're probably never going to use all of the features or the performance of that car. So we get to the traditional Honda Accord. Why is that the type of product or core network that we want in a district? Well, it's because it's easy to maintain. It always runs. It's something that's tried and true. And it's a platform that will get you from A to B very efficiently. And finding talent to support it is also efficient. So be efficient, think long-term, and know your customers. As we said, if you bought a 1985 Yugo It's actually listed in Time magazine as one of the top 50 worst cars ever made. But you'd be surprised. We'll go to customer sites or folks that aren't our customers yet, and because they've really struggled to wait to buy, or their purchasing cycle is not really efficient, they're trying to stretch the equivalent of a 1985 Yugo and have it work today. And maybe some days it works, but when you really push it, it's going to fail eventually on you. On the other hand, we've dealt with customers where maybe they had invested in unique, one-off packages like the LaFerrari of networks, finding or trying to find, make use of obscure technology that maybe there's only a handful of people that know about. We often see that when it comes to having your one network administrator who finds this really cool product, and his feeling is, this is what we need, and he sells you on it. And then you realize later that because it's not a widely adopted platform, well, I can't find people to support it, and it's aging out too quickly, and you end up with something that, although it may have been this amazing high-performance utility or software package or network system, there's no way to make it sustainable. And so the idea is to be efficient, work with support teams that have their success and profitability directly tied to your efficiency. So if that's your own staff, well, you want to make sure that their performance, how well they do, how well they profit from support, is tied directly to how efficient things run. If you're outsourcing it, the same should be true. Work with equipment and vendors that have long track records of working well, of being established, good support. As much as a new product may come out and it looks awesome, you want to make sure it's tried and true before you make a huge investment in it, because you're going to own it. And like we said before, you're running it like a business. So when your customers start complaining about your product that you put out there, well, that ultimately really hurts you. Avoid hanging on to technology that's no longer widely adopted. We work with countless schools that a number of them are still holding on to things like Novell. Novell is an awesome platform, but is it easy to find Novell talent anymore? And when I say talent, I mean people that can really support it and administrate it. In fact, when we go to a site and we see they're running Novell and we talk to their network administrator, more often than not, they're paying thousands of dollars for additional support contracts with third-party companies just to provide admin support for Novell because the on-site guy doesn't know how to do anything with it. So why hold on to it? Even if maybe there's this little piece that you want to hold on to, it's really in the big picture not worth it. So that's just one example, but there are other technologies too that you need to keep an eye on. Let's see if we can go to our next slide here. Technology like your laptop. There we go. Also think long term. Most districts now realize the need for a sustainable replacement cycle, but that really applies to everything. Initially, everybody realized, okay, we need to buy workstations on a regular cycle. But it applies to network infrastructure, wireless infrastructure. Obviously, the technology doubles in speed and capacity almost every 2 years, according to Moore's Law. We see that having something that's sustainable will help you down the road. Things like the Smarter Schools bond money. That's really exciting to maybe have a lump sum of money infused into a district. But if not careful, you could create this sort of peak in your purchasing cycle that you can't sustain down the road. So really paying attention to that is critical. And that's something most know, but it's always something good to be reminded of. Establish policies and procedures, including what we call business continuity plans. Districts typically think of disaster recovery plans. But a disaster recovery plan, although necessary, is really only a piece of a business continuity plan. And what that means is you're not always dealing with ultimate disasters. Yeah, you have to have a plan for an ultimate disaster, but you really should have documented what you do in the small disasters, like a portion of a building has an outage, or you're going to be without a laptop card for a period of time. That's how do you preserve continuity, which is so critical when you're talking about your customers, the teachers, needing that product to work all the time. Know your customers. Once you have a solid foundation, you can then take their curriculum initiatives and build off of that established Honda Accord of a network and support infrastructure that you've built. And we say that because think of your initiatives as destinations that you're going to drive that car. Now again, we go back to it. If we were trying to drive the Yugo on a cross-country trip to California, we'd want insurance, wouldn't we? The Ferrari would be fun, but it would be really uncomfortable. Whereas that Honda Accord, if we've established our product, our core infrastructure, support team, software packages, everything, our product as an IT department, as that sort of relative to a Honda Accord, we know what that makes for a relatively comfortable trip, and we know we're going to get there. And we know along the way, if we have an issue, that no matter what town we stop in, we'll find a certified Honda repair guy. And that should be the true of your IT department. So building a department infrastructure that could allow you to choose destinations based on what your customers are looking to do. Whether they're moving to Google Apps, or they're looking at Microsoft's tools, or they're doing something else, making sure that everything will work with it. So how do we apply it all, or how does Edu Tek fit into this? So that was the kind of core of it. This is the short sales pitch. So I apologize for this part. As I mentioned, we're over 20 years of experience. Our company designs its model to run a school's IT department. What that means is that we really help you as tech directors, existing network administrators, business officials in the district, to help you take that, whatever you have, and turn it into that efficient running model, because it helps us, but in turn it really helps you to have that efficient model. We work off of a flat pricing model for what we consider core IT services, and I'm going to explain that in a minute. But one of our biggest selling points is our flexibility and agility. As a private business, we're able to adapt to the needs of our customers. Just like you're running an IT department, that's a business that has to adapt to the needs of your teachers and your administrators. As a company, we have to adapt, otherwise we cease to exist. So we have to be flexible. Unlike maybe on-site staff that you have, that they can sort of fall into a certain mold and they don't have to change because they have a job, they feel secure, and maybe they're not as flexible. Or other organizations that are subsidized, they may not have to be as flexible. We have to be flexible in order to exist. What does flat rate mean? Well, our billing cycles, for any that have ever seen it or gotten quotes from Edu Tek, we're very straightforward. We take a district, we work with you to determine the quantity and level of staff members that would need to handle the day-to-day operation of the school district and support this core IT model. And then we give you an annual fixed cost that's basically billed out once every month. So it's divided by 12, that's your bill, nothing else. And the reason we can do that is because we've worked for so many districts, we have a general feel for what's necessary to make an efficient district run. So I'm going to jump to what's really the best slide. So what is Edu Tek's core model? Well, districts need, if you're going to do what I just said early on, have an efficient IT department, this is what's included in running an efficient IT department. One, you have day-to-day help desk support. And in reality, when a district's running efficiently, maybe 80% of the workload of the on-site people is assisting individual users with tasks and general help desk issues. The major outages generally are either eliminated or limited, very much so, because you're running an efficient network. The constant Wi-Fi drops or this server's crashing and things like that would necessitate extra staff being there. When you're running an efficient network, that goes away, and it's not necessarily necessary. On top of the on-site support is network administration and management. So what's included in that? Well, managing your switches, your routers, your firewalls, your Wi-Fi components, your storage, your servers, everything that's in the back end that drives the user devices. That's part of Edu Tek's core IT model. We take that on, all of it, under that one price. The next step up, infrastructure support, and what we call standard annual projects. As I mentioned, in order to maintain an efficient network, you need to have a replacement cycle. So buying machines every year, we feel, is part of running your network. It's not an additional project. That's something that should happen in order to keep things efficient. Replacing servers on a server cycle, same thing. Building images, replacing switches in closets, upgrading your Wi-Fi. That's all part of maintaining an efficient network. Those shouldn't be extra projects that you then have to go out to other firms for, or that you need to get extra prices for. That's what Edu Tek does as its core model. So how do we do that? Well, the idea is if we have a flat rate to basically tell you we're going to take care of your network and give you an infrastructure and department that will support all of your initiatives, and we tell you that we now own it and we have to run it and provide you this level of service and expectation. We set that expectation with the district. If we run an inefficient network, we're not profitable. It means we have to put extra staff there to help with user issues because there's just an excess in help desk tickets. Or we have extra staff there helping with administrative tasks because servers are struggling and things like that. On the other hand, if we work to get your network and your infrastructure to be efficient, well then we can remain profitable because we don't have to throw more and more staff at something. We can stick to the model that works. So what's nice about it is our accountability and profitability is tied directly to the efficiency of your IT department and your network, all without going to additional services. So I did see a hand.
Clarifying question, if you want to
Yeah.
address it afterwards, that's fine. You know, in prior years, we looked at the technician to device ratio and tried to use that as a factor in determining support structures. I think over the last year that you all know how that may not be as valuable anymore. Mobile devices really require different support, more support. So I'm wondering if you could speak to that at all, how you determine what the number of technicians to support a district may be, if it's in terms of devices or some of the other variables that you were just speaking.
So I think you nailed it with saying variables more than anything. There is no fixed number that works for every district because some of the variables are the quantity of devices, the number of users, who the primary users are. Are these devices that are used primarily by students? Are they by staff? Is there movement between of the devices?
So we know that.
Yeah, okay.
We know you need to know number of users and devices. Those are
So here are the other variables that maybe are not as well talked about but should be. One is the personality of the district. So we've worked in certain districts where they're able to run with less staff because of the, like I say, personality of the district. We've worked in other districts where they tend to be more needy, which may not be a nice way of saying it, but it's the reality of it. And it's the reality of the user base and where they're at. What happens sometimes is, and what we try to do, is work with the district early on to determine, one, right now, when we start in a district, what are the needs currently? And we work with them to determine, to start, what's the best staffing. At the same time, as we get the network running efficiently, we may find that there are certain areas where there's not a need for as much staff because of how things are being used. And then there are other cases where we'll work with the district to evaluate opportunities where maybe there's a significant change in the technology. Maybe they went to a one-to-one initiative and the realization is, you know what? We need less general desktop support, but we need more just hands to be able to work on break-fix things for fixing Chromebook screens and things like that. A good example is the Rhinebeck Union Free School District, which has been one of our long-term customers. And Rhinebeck started with one tech, and over the last 19 years, eventually grew to 1.5, and then eventually to 2, and more recently actually went to 3 full-time engineers running the district. And they're not a large district. Now, that was not something where every year we were telling them, you need 3 techs, you need 3 techs. No, we worked with the district to see where the needs were. What made it interesting this year was instead of just putting bodies on something, we took a different look at it and saying, as the technology has changed and the needs have changed, there's a new variable here. An IT department is no longer just handling your network and fixing PCs and rolling them out. They need to be doing other things. What we did was we looked at the help desk that we run, and we analyzed where are the areas of pain. One area we saw was that there's a lot of AV needs within the district because they have a lot of audio-video components throughout their district. So one of the things we did was, in allocating staff, we made a change, and we identified an individual that had a higher AV skill set so that they could help not just with day-to-day desktop things that come up all the time, but they also had an area of specialty where they could work on AV components, which addressed that pain point, so to speak. We also saw that as the district has moved forward and they become more efficient, there was also an opportunity to adjust some of the other staff to bridge the gap between the technical department and the curriculum and teaching department. So we allocated staff that had a background in teaching that could handle day-to-day network and desktop support, but also put together a technology curriculum for professional development. So the idea that that technician can also has a background and personality for working with people. He's not the kind of engineer that sits in a room. No, he's engaged with the staff. And he's going to be running regular programs. And we're working with the district to establish a baseline standard for what staff should be able to do. It's the same way you work with standards with students. We're doing it. The idea is to do it with teachers. And so we had that flexibility to say, okay, let's look at the needs, adjust it, and fill it in. So.
And that's all very helpful. Just to elaborate on the program, what I'm really wrestling with right now is the rollout of thousands of mobile units. And because they're mobile, their replacement cycle is a much shorter cycle than previously what we could deal with desktop. So when you're talking about 3,000 mobile devices or 3,000 to 4,000 that you're replacing on a 3-year cycle, you try to look at the support structures needed for that. That's whole thing for me right now, looking at the IT support, trying to determine what's a feasible number of technician license buildings. I know we all have variables, but when I try to search for some type of equation that I can look at, it's hard to come up with that. So I know we have to figure it out. But that's the point I think now a lot of districts are really looking at the mobile app. And then there are different platforms, right? Supporting iOS, Microsoft. So I think that's something, and you may not have the answer, just expressing that as something that is hard to come up with a number. And I recognize all the variables.
And I guess it's an excellent question, sort of request, issue that exists from that standpoint. Our approach historically, whether it was 15 years ago and we were rolling out electronic whiteboards to every room and deciding, okay, how is this going to affect things? Our approach as a firm, so this is me talking as a vendor now, our approach to customers has always been, let's bring it in. We will take the initial hit. We're the shock absorber, so to speak, when it comes to new technology. And that happens often when we start out in a district, because often when we take over a district, they're not running as efficiently as we want them to be. And so often, even though maybe there's a district that's allocated, our contract is based on 2 on-site people, it's not unusual for us to have 5 people there over the summer, into the beginning of the year, and sometimes longer if necessary, until we get it efficient to where it fits. In other cases with districts where they've done major rollouts or changes, so for instance, we have districts like Yorktown that did one-to-one initiatives with Chromebooks, and we absorbed it. And we found that we're able to handle it, and we were able to handle it with the 2 engineers that we had on site. However, as things change, nothing says that you're not going to get that new Acer model, and I know Acer's here, hopefully they're not in the room, and I love Acer, but say you get that one Acer, or we had it with HPs, I think, and Samsungs in the past, where the power adapter was flimsy, and every one of them was an issue. And I have 700 of these, what am I going to do? That's where we've worked with districts to be the shock absorber. And it's something that's hard to do, and this kind of goes to is it affordable? Often our company competes against 2 models. One, on-site staff that you have your own civil service employees or network administrators or techs that are employees of a district. The other competition for us is BOCES, who's a legitimate service provider. What we do that's different that neither of them can do often is be that shock absorber. Because like you said, there's certain initiatives that you want to do. Maybe your network is solid, your Wi-Fi is solid, and you're ready to take on whatever's after the Chromebook. Because there will be something after the Chromebook. That's not going to be here forever. So whatever's next, and maybe it's something totally different, just like it was when you started deploying massive amounts of mobile devices. Our goal with the district is to say, let's not rewrite a contract until we see what's going on, and let's absorb it, and then work with you to determine what works. If we're throwing too many people at it, well, that's inefficient for us, but we'll see that pretty quickly. But we're also very frank with them. We'll say, okay, if there's 4 people and we really need 5, we'll work with the district to determine, do you see this need? Do you feel it's valid? And then we work to make it fit. So that's how we've addressed it. And the reason why I say there's no blanket formula is because every district has been different. Every product you buy is different. Every scenario you face, there's so many unknowns with technology. So as much as early on we recommend stick to tried and true technology, hopefully some of that is to keep some of those anomalies kind of evened out and the support needs evened out. But there are still things that are new that you want to do. So we were, some of our districts were the first ones to be large, Google adopters. Before that, it was other cloud resources like putting data in the cloud. So we've tend to be fairly forward-thinking and willing to take things on. And again, it goes back to being a private firm. Our company can't exist if you come to us with something and we say we can't do that or we won't do that. It's on us, not you. It's on us to say, all right, we will find the talent, we will determine the resources, and we'll work with you initially by absorbing it to see what the reality is. Because sometimes what looks like it's going to be overwhelming is not that bad. And the devices work well, and we're able to support it without changing anything. So I know it's a roundabout, not straightforward answer, but I'm trying to be realistic too. And I think that's where we've tried to remain flexible and agile with our customers in order to do that. So just as a little side point, part of or a big portion of what Edu Tek does is core IT services. That's our bread and butter. It's what we've done for years, running districts. But one of the other big things that we do is that we're also a general IT solutions provider. When we say IT, we really just mean technology in all its forms. So when it comes to audio video, we do tremendous AV deployments, both in public schools, private schools, universities. I know you recognize some of the spaces. And many schools have toured spaces that, our engineers, like Mario's our VP of operations and sales, and he has engineered a lot of these rooms. We worked for big organizations. We do a ton with Columbia University. I mean, beautiful rooms. Do all of our public schools have the funds to do what Columbia University does? Absolutely not. But what's great about it is we've been able to take things that we do on that scale and work with districts to model things that work on their scale. And so it's AV, it's IT, it's single projects. We've yet to say no to a district coming to us and saying, can you help us with this? And I think you realize, being in the IT branch of your school districts, that everybody comes to you with something, whether it's the security system, or it's the copier, or it's the phone system. Everything funnels through IT now. And so we try to work as a partner to the districts to be that, like I said, shock absorber as you hit each of those things. So hopefully this offered a little bit of insight into how we approach things, and also some of the options, even when you're building an IT team yourself, because not everybody's going to use Edu Tek, but just in general, view it as a business that you're providing a service, and how can you most efficiently be profitable, even though you're not selling something. In your case, being efficient is being profitable. So if you have any questions, let me know. And feel free to check our website out, etltd.com. And we're all around, so you see all the Edu Tek guys. So thanks for sitting through this.